Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Let's certainly talk about one of the breaking news stories, which is there may be the announcement, there's going to be an announcement of the arrest of the murder suspect in the killing of Tupac Shakur. That's coming out of the Las Vegas Police Department. We're going to try to see what is being said of this, of the slain rapper that was killed back in 1996. So it looks like the Las Vegas police may have their person of that is responsible for killing Tupac. We're also going to share with you the latest developments in the Michael Oher case, as his conservatorship has officially been judged, is over. We'll share with you the latest details from that court case. Also, Black women are seemingly the ones that's going to be taking down and reminding the GOP that Trump is a problem to democracy. I'm going to share with you what one Black congresswoman said at the first day of the Biden impeachment hearings. And then later on, let's have a conversation with our sister Corinna Denise to talk about, are colleges the key to saving democracy? And how it's important for us to have civics now in the college curriculum. And that may be a way for us to have some new conversations about our political government. We'll have that and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, so I just want to jump right in. And I know that my culture crew, y'all are checking in from around the country. Let me just see who's in the chat. Folks, we are streaming live right now on blackstarnetwork.com. That's our home website, blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence to show your financial support, as we are looking for your support to power this digital movement. So make sure you go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure you download the app on all of your devices, on your phones and everything. And make sure you follow us on social media, because we would love to connect with you and have you a part of our network, right there online. So go to blackstarnetwork.com today. Also, we are streaming on Amazon News on your Fire TV, as well as Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Plex TV. Just go to News and Opinion and just ask for Black Star Network, and boom, this guy will pop up right now. So make sure you do your due diligence there. Also, we're streaming on Facebook, and you can find it streaming on YouTube. Just go to Rolly Martin's YouTube page, and that's where you will find the infamous, the legendary, my all beautiful, my fantastic, my talented, man, my dope ass culture crew. They are checking in from all around the country right there on our YouTube page, folks. And big shout out to all of them for doing the work of making sure that people are having a great experience. So many people have been telling me that they enjoy coming into the chat because of the type of conversations that we have on there. And so big shout out to my online culture crew. I see you, Pastor Damon Bissett, Cindy D, I got you. Hello, Cindy, Pastor Damon. Good to connect with you once again, big brother. Cindy, Lori, thank you so much. Lori Parks, Conscious Thought, good afternoon, big brother. Good to see you. Tiana, I see you. Thank you for checking in, Tiana. Hey, Tiana. Hey, Boza Blick, good connecting with you once again. Pauline, Miss Pauline, thank you so much. Anastasia, good to connect with you once again. Thank you so much for checking in with us all, as always. Brian Christian, good afternoon to you as well, sir. So make sure y'all join us in the conversation. Join us again on Rolly Martin's YouTube page and be a part of our culture crew. All right, let me just get the latest from my team here around this. Also, yes, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about adding these two. You know, we're on Amazon News. We're on the Amazon News on Fire TV. I thank you, team, for reminding me. We're also on Plex, but we're also on Freevee. There we go. There you go. Let's look at the bottom right there, folks. Let me just do this right there. Okay, we got it. Okay, there we go. Make sure we're on Freevee and Amazon Prime Prime Video, folks. There it is, Prime Video. We are officially there on Amazon Prime. So big shout out to Amazon and to all of our distributors as we're continuing to grow this platform. And I thank you for definitely putting us on. But we are all over the place, folks. Black Star Network is on the move. I just want to make that clear. Black Star Network is definitely on the move. So big shout out to all of those platforms. And you can find us again, folks. Amazon News, Amazon Prime, Freevee, Plex TV. Look at that. Boom. Can we show the Amazon once again? Because I don't want people to do it. There we go. Now available on Prime Video. Here we go. There we go. Woo. Mama, we made it. We made it. All right, folks. Let's jump into these conversations. So much stuff is happening. And, I want to just tell my team, just keep me up to date on the situation coming out of Las Vegas, because there's the big announcement coming out of the Las Vegas Police Department about the person that they may have that they have arrested, the man that they have arrested in connection with the killing of Tupac. Now, according to the reports right now, that the Las Vegas police have charged a man with this murder. Of course, Tupac Shakur, one of the great hip hop legends of our generation. He was killed back in 1996 in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. On Friday, Duane Keefe D. Davis was indicted by a grand jury in Nevada on one count of murder with a deadly weapon. Of course, Tupac was 25. It's crazy. He was 25 years old. And look at all of that life that man was living. But he was 25 years old at the time of his death. Prosecutor Mark Diaz-Giacomo described Mr. Davis as the, quote, on-the-ground, on-site commander who ordered the death of Tupac. Mr. Davis is 60 years old, folks. 1996. He's 60 years old, and he was arrested this morning while walking near his home, according to the prosecutor. And this is going to reverberate throughout the hip hop community. And it is something that after all of these years, what are we talking about here? Nearly what? Almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. Tiana, you checked in and said Tupac would have been 52. Can y'all remember? Wow, he would have been 52. You're right, Tiana. He really would have been 52. All right. So now we're looking at what, 27 years. Deidre, you said the Tupac situation after 27 years. That's right. 27 years ago. Pauline, you asked the question, what took them so long to catch this guy? I think it's evidence. I think it's witnesses. I know that, look, trust me, and I know this is going to sound funny, but watching those crime shows, and I'm talking about not like the fake ones, like the real crime shows, like a lot of the homicide detectives, you got people that leave the department, some retire, the cases don't, kind of sit in the back room and all of this stuff. All of these changes are happening within the police department. And so sometimes it just takes one good detective to pick up the cold case, and say, all right, let's try to see if we can look through all of the evidence again. And that's how these things happen, especially after such a long period of time. It just takes one great detective, somebody who says, you know what? This case hasn't been solved. It's one of the most popular cases of all time, right? Like who killed Tupac, who killed Biggie Smalls. It's like one of the greatest cases in hip hop history. And so there may be some closure for the Shakur family after all. I remember just a few months ago, we talked about this on the show. Tupac was finally given his star of fame in Hollywood. And his sister had expressed her gratefulness and just talking about her brother and the family and how this was really just a huge honor for her brother, even after his death. And it was, if you go on Hollywood Boulevard right now, folks, there's a guy on Hollywood Boulevard. He always plays Tupac music all throughout the day. And the star actually had like candles and flowers around it. I went up there and I just took a picture one day. And I got to share this picture with y'all, but he went through and it was like, it's right there. It's right there on Hollywood Boulevard. It's not like around some corner. It's right there on the boulevard. So everybody sees it. But there's this one guy, he sits there and he plays the music. He sells like t-shirts and artwork and everything, all things Tupac, right there on Hollywood Boulevard. So it is something that after 27 years, we are looking at finally getting the murderer of Tupac Shakur. And it will be even more fascinating to know, like, even some of the backstory behind this whole case, right? This is absolutely amazing. But I do want to know how the hip hop community is going to take it. Like I said, it's one of the most famous cases of our genre. But will it make a difference in a sense of how we see Tupac and everything? And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of pieces, a lot of articles about who Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is and what's his connection and all of those things. And so there it is, 60 years old. I wonder if he was just like a hired hand in this situation, or did he have a relationship with Tupac? Did he have a relationship with Suge? And that's the next question, right? That's going to be the next question. Like, okay, you got this guy, but was Suge Knight, was he behind the situation as well? Did he know of the shooting? So, those dots will be connected. But I'm certainly glad that someone within the Las Vegas Police Department said, we cannot allow this to go unsolved. It just can't be. It just can't be. Both this murder and of No Crew, Biggie Smalls murder, they got to come to some level of closure. They got to come to some level of closure and to some level of justice for the families, because regardless of how famous these brothers, Tupac was, the impact that he has made on the culture, he's still a Black man that was shot and killed in a very violent way. And that can be very traumatic for the Shakur family. So there has to be some closure. There's to be some healing. And it's crazy that as one of the most famous people in the world, it took so long to get to his murderer. But guess what? There's an old saying that says justice never sleeps. Justice never sleeps. Let me see. Laura, you said that's what I was thinking. Suge Knight. Yep, we're going to see if there's any connection to that. Absolutely. Tiana, you said, you mean to tell me he was still gangbanging at 33 years old? If you in that life, you in that life forever. You in that life forever. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about some other developments. I'm going to share with you the latest in the Michael Oher case and so much more. Stay with us. We're just getting started here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We just gave you the latest in the situation in the case of and killing of Tupac Shakur. The Las Vegas Police Department has announced that DeJuan Keefe D. Davis is responsible for the murder, that he commanded for the murder to happen. Here's the interesting thing about it, though. In his book called Compton Street Legend, he admitted that he was in the car with Tupac as he served as the leader of the Crips, or the Crips Street Organization. So he admitted he was there, but I guess police found some other evidence that said that he was responsible enough to be arrested and to be held accountable for this. So I think there's going to be some other elements of this story that's going to pop up. But again, as I mentioned, justice never sleeps, folks. Justice never sleeps. And that Keefe Davis, 60 years old, 60 years old. Can you imagine being that age? You know, you're trying to move on in your life, and then boom, this thing comes back to come back to get you. It is highly interesting. Lana, you said that you agree that you could remember everything about that moment when Tupac was killed. Yeah, he was a Black American messiah. You said, in my opinion, Farajii, the government did it. I don't trust any one of those names involved. Well, I don't know, Lana. I mean, I don't know. We will see. I remember when people thought the same thing about Nipsey, right? When Nipsey was killed. You know, every time a rapper is killed, there are a lot of theories as to who is responsible, what really happened, what were they involved in, all of those things. So we may never get the full story, and I'm sure Suge Knight is not going to say anything. I'm sure Suge Knight is not going to say anything. So again, this is, I think this brings some level of closure to the Shakur family, and you know, hopefully this will lead to some other unsolved murders, especially like the murder of Biggie Smalls and others, to finally find justice. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. Out of that, let's talk about this other piece where the judge has officially ended the conservatorship of Michael Oher. Y'all know him, former NFL player, who went into just a few months, maybe like a month ago, he announced that that he wasn't really adopted, that his parents, quote unquote, his adopted parents, were actually had signed an agreement of conservatorship. Well, it was announced today that Shelby County Probate Court Judge Kathleen Gomes said that she is terminating the agreement that was reached in 2004 that allowed Sean and Leanne Toohey to control Oher's finances. Let me just share this. This is coming from the group. Oher signed the agreement when he was 18 years old. So he was already at a certain age, folks. and living with the couple as he was being recruited by colleges as a star high school football player. Their story is the subject of the film The Blind Side, which earned Sandra Bullock an Oscar. Gomes said, this is the judge, she said she was not dismissing the case or had asked the Tuohys provide a financial accounting of money they may have come to them as part of the agreement, claiming that they used his name, image, and likeness to enrich themselves, and lied to him that the agreement meant the Tuohys were adopting him. Now, take a look at this. This is coming from Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. In Tennessee, a conservatorship removes power from a person to make decisions for themselves, and it is often used in the case of a medical condition or disability. But Oher's conservatorship was approved, quote, despite the fact that he was over 18 years old and had no diagnosed physical or psychological disabilities, according to his petition. Gomes says she was disturbed that such an agreement was ever reached. She said she had never seen in her 43-year career a conservatorship agreement reached with someone who was not disabled. She said, I cannot believe it got done. Wow. Wow. There's some more details that came from that case, folks. I didn't even know that that was the situation, that was the law in the state of Tennessee. So to even hear that part of it, the intentions of the Tuohys. And for whatever reason, they must have some influence. I don't know what happened back in 2004 that allowed, I'm like Judge Gomes, like, how does this thing even get done? How do you justify, going into this agreement with an 18-year-old who's a football player, who's playing high school football? There's no physical ailment or physical disability. There's no psychological issue. Maybe they did it on the psychological issue by him being, quote unquote, his family situation, and he's distressed. I don't know how they did that. How were they able to pull that off? But big shout out to Michael Oher getting liberated from that conservatorship. And, the last person that had a conservatorship, for those who follow this story, was Britney Spears. And she got liberated from that as well. But to hear that this type of thing can happen to a young person, this is very, very sad. And again, it makes me question the intention of the Tuohys. Like, did you really care about this guy? I mean, did y'all really care about Michael Oher? Or is this just like a gravy train here? Cindy, you checked in. You said, I thought he was slow in learning or something like that. Right. I thought there was something. I wonder how they justified going into this agreement, since he doesn't have a physical ailment, because he's a football player. He doesn't have a physical disability. So they must have played on his psychological disability of some sort, right? Maybe trauma or something. So, yeah. Pretty Brown Mimi, 726 Mimi, good afternoon. Good to connect with you. You said Michael Oher said his life was not as portrayed in the film. They controlled his finances for 20 years. Shame on them. Woo! Talking about taking advantage of someone, right, Mimi? Like, geez, 20 years of that. And I think, Mimi, if I'm not mistaken, when he just recently talked about this, like, he didn't even know for a long time that this was the case. So he played for a couple of different teams in the NFL, making all this money, getting deals, This is interesting. Very, very interesting. Anastasia, you said they need to pay all that money back that they took, and they gave their kids millions of dollars from his dealing. Yeah, he actually has been trying to get some sort of money back. That's one of the things that he put in his petition, that, like, look, they took this money in an unjustified manner, so therefore I should be able to get it back. But we will see. As I just shared with you, the judge has said the case is not closed, because I'm sure that is the other part of this. Like, is he owed something in return of that? Is he owed something? Pauline, you said no, they didn't care, just wanted to control his money. They should be made to pay back every penny, if they have any money. If they have any money. If not, he's going to put them right into bankruptcy. Isn't that crazy? Wouldn't that be a wild turn of events, that they took on a conservatorship of his finances, and then in paying him back, they go broke and bankrupt? Dang, dang. It's a hell of a thing. Justice never sleeps. Justice never sleeps. I'm telling you, justice never sleeps. All right, folks, look, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, can I talk about how, sisters, y'all are doing something that a lot of people didn't expect for y'all to do? I'm going to just break this down. Like, Black women are the best. I'm going to just say this. Y'all are the best. Y'all are leading the charge. And I'm going to say this very early on, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong after I share this story, but Black women may be the key to saving this country. Y'all might just be that key to saving democracy. I'm gonna share with you the details, and we got a little video. What happened yesterday at the first hearing, the first day of hearing for the Biden impeachment, where they could not find any real evidence against the president for any wrongdoing, but how one Black congresswoman said, "You want to talk about somebody broken the law?" I'll share with you what that story is. Stay with us. The Culture is up next. We'll take a quick pause and we'll be right back here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. Welcome back to the show here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Just giving you some updates about some things that have been happening so far over the past 24 hours. And one of the big moments and one of the big things that folks are talking about is this display of quote unquote justice, democracy that we see coming from the other side, from the GOP, as they head into the first day of hearings around this, as they try to proceed moving forward on impeaching President Biden. while they were claiming that he got somehow involved in his son's Hunter Biden's business, and that he knew, and there's some wrongdoing that he has done. So they put on this whole hearing yesterday, which some Democrats have said is a waste of time. But they proceeded to do what they thought was the right thing to do, and talking about the violations that President Biden has committed while in office. The crazy part is some people have a short-term memory, because there was another guy in the same seat that was doing some actual criminal stuff while in office, and even after he left office. Well, guess what? It only takes one person to remind a whole group of people to not forget. And that one person happens to be a Black woman, Representative Jasmine Crockett, the Democrat out of Texas. She made it quite known that we're talking about somebody who broke the law while in office. Let's talk about the other guy first. Here's what she had to say during the hearing.
Have you ever heard them say "if" since we've been sitting here for I don't know how long?
Yes, I've been taking a tally.
Oh, okay. Can you show us? Can you tell us what the tally is?
More than 35 times, the Republican witnesses and Republican members of the committee have used the word "if."
Thank you so much for that. Because honestly, if they would continue to say "if" or Hunter and we were playing a drinking game, I would be drunk by now. Because I promise you, they have not talked about the subject of this, which would be the president. But let me tell you something that was so disturbing as I walked in to this chamber today. As I prepared, I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
I don't know what to say. Representative Crockett, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You know what? Y'all know what I'm about to say. It's only a matter of time that Big Brother Roland will have her on the show. It's only a matter of time. Wow. Wow. The crazy part about this, though, folks, is that you got to be reminded. Like, just think about this. This is the crazy part. Not just about her passion, not just about the fact that she makes an excellent point. The crazy part is that you got to be reminded of what a person who has committed high crimes and misdemeanors look like. Crazy part is you got to be reminded of the fact that the guy in the seat just a couple of years ago who left the seat, who is actually in legal issues because of his mishandling of classified documents, like it just escapes us all. It's like, oh, that didn't happen. That's a high. It's not a high crime. Please, you can take classified documents anywhere, anytime. Please. As she said, in the shitter. Wow. Wow. All right, let me hear what y'all got to say on this, crew. Let me hear this. You are not a victim. You said she's loud and wrong. Loud and wrong. Who's loud and wrong? You are not a victim. Are you talking about Representative Crocker, or are you talking about Crockett? Excuse me. Or are you talking about someone else? Is that loud? Give me some details. I don't want to assume anything, because that will make me, Cindy, you said you go, girl. She's always been that way. She's a star in the Democratic Party. My question is, this is what we're seeing. She not only reminded the GOP of its own issues by pulling the receipts on Trump, but then going back to the point of making sure that the government is doing what it's supposed to do. She's a reminder for democracy as well. That's all I'm gonna say. Real Brooklyn, now Real Brooklyn, you know better. Saying, am I listening to Bonita Buttrell, or am I listening to someone in government? Really? Come on, Real Brooklyn, you know better, brother. I mean, look, we can't even go in on a sister that speaks the way she speaks when you have Republicans and Democrats. I mean, we just talked about Chris Christie on a national stage say how the president is sleeping with a teacher in the most disrespectful way to the first lady of the United States. Now, I'm just talking about principle here. The president is sleeping with a teacher. And then the vice president, yeah, I sleep with the teacher for 38 years. Really? Come on, bro. Come on. Brian Christian, you said she brought the fire. Yeah, she brought a lot of fire. What you expect? Kathleen Davis, you said she brought receipts, proof. Lana, you asked the question, now what? You're not impressed? Now what? I think in a case like this, Lana, and this is, you can agree with me or disagree with me on this. I think in a situation like this, it's not necessarily, it may not lead to anything in terms of like stopping the impeachment hearings or even changing the course of the way things are going. But I think what it does, it gives people some incentive, something like she's showing that she has somewhat of a fighting spirit to her. And I think that's what is inspiring for a lot of people right now, that we have often been saying, and I know some members of some of y'all on the crew, y'all have been saying, well, where's the fire from the Democrats? Where's the we want to see representatives that are angry, upset, that are tired of the BS. So I think it brings that type of energy to the conversation. Like I said, it may not change the impeachment hearing, but this was a national clip of a Black woman who's really, to me, this is what I saw. A Black woman who's taking the mirror and putting it up to the GOP and to America. And to America to say, look, let's stop the hypocrisy. Let's stop acting as if what just happened either during the Trump administration and what's been happening after the Trump administration has not been happening. This is happening. The president just made a speech yesterday, and I think it's either Philly or I forgot the city he was in, and Lisa and Maddie let me know. But he just spoke yesterday. This is the fourth speech he talks about saving democracy. And one of the things he said, one is that this is going to be a central tenet of his 2024 reelection campaign, this idea of saving democracy. But then the second part of that is that he outwardly points out Trump is a threat to this current system of democracy, right? So there is more, I think that we're starting to see just a little bit more of the Democrats coming less on the defensive and more on the offensive. Less defense and more offense. All right. Let me take another couple of comments from you, crew, and then we got to take another quick pause. Monkey Confessions, you said, I follow her page on Twitter along with some other CBC members. What do you follow on Twitter? What does she say on Twitter, Monkey Confessions? I would love to know. I got to follow her. John HPS, you said she was on point. Lana, you go back to say respect. Teach me. She gives me hope. It's inspiring, but we need substance. We got a whole CBC that speaks well. I like her fire. I want her to shift her fight. That's all I'm saying. I respect that. I definitely respect that. And trust me, I'm all about substance and not just for performative politics, right? But I think sometimes it's like in certain moments you look in the toolbox and say, which tool do I want? Do I want to put somebody on blast on national TV in a national way to remind them of their hypocrisy? Or how do I want to do it and using which tool? And I think this tool is something right now. Again, we've been looking for this. We've been wanting people, some of you have been saying, right, look, well, we want Democrats to step up. So it is something like that, right? I love the fact that she, as a Black woman, as a Black lawmaker, that she is not going to just take certain things. But again, this is a slippery slope. This is a slippery slope. The slippery slope comes in whether those who have been oppressed by the system the most becomes the number one defender of the system. That's the slippery slope and very unique position that Black folks have always found themselves in. I was watching just a little bit of a documentary yesterday, and they were talking about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. And I'm going to say this really quickly, then we take our next pause. And in this documentary, they were making a point that when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed and the Civil War was happening, that those of our people who were enslaved were started to be recruited to be a part of the war effort, right? Either to fight on the side of the South or fight on the North. But we were enlisted into this war effort. And one of the, I forgot one of the contributors of the documentary, but they made the point that imagine you being an enslaved person, you're getting taken out of that condition to be a soldier, to fight on the behalf of a system that is imprisoned, that oppressed and enslaved you. And I was like, damn, that's deep. And guess what? From that time to this time, that has been a part of our story. That we have received the least amount of benefit from the system, but we have often become the number one defenders and the fighters and the folks that uphold the system that give us the least amount. It's a dichotomy that exists in our essence and existence in this country. It's not fair. And some of you might be saying, well, why do you say some of the things that you say, Farajii? Because of that very dichotomy. Like it's insane, but that is unfortunately part of our story. And that's why this system of white supremacy and this system of government and why we need to fight so much. So I get it. Alana, I'm saying all that to say is that I understand the sentiment. Trust me, I understand the sentiment. And I hope that our system would fight just as hard for like reparations. I haven't heard her take on certain issues that are really like fundamental to us, to Black America, but we see some fighters in her. I got to take a quick pause. Stay with us, folks. On the other side, I got my sister Corinna Denise checking in. Also, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this moment and this idea that if we were to teach civics courses in college, would we be in a different state when it comes to political and social conversation discourse than in this country? So I'm asking the question, are colleges another key to saving democracy? We want to have that conversation up on the other side. So stay with us. We still got a lot to get to on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape, with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation, you and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told. Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining us for the second half of the show. We are streaming live right now, folks, on a number of different platforms now. We certainly are starting with our home network of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence and support us there as we're streaming live there. We're also streaming on Amazon News on your Fire TV. Just go there and look under Black Star Network. And we're on Plex TV, along with our new distributors. We can be found now on Prime Video. Let's show that. There we go. We are available on Prime Video. Just find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV. Then go to News, or you can find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, and then News. So we are now on that space, as well as Freevee. Find us under On Now, go to News, and boom, Black Star Network is now available on Freevee. So we are certainly grateful to our media partners and distributors as we move this digital movement along. Also, of course, we're on social media on Facebook. You can find us there, and on YouTube. Just take a look at YouTube under Roland Martin's YouTube page and jump in the chat and be a Culture Crew member for the day. All right, let me bring my sister, who is a college advisor. She is an educator. She's an advocate, and I'm always happy to have her be with me on Fridays. I look forward to her insight. My sister, Corinna Denise. Corinna, good afternoon. Wait a minute, are you on mute? Are you on mute, Corinna? Oh, okay.
Oh, my bad, family.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Corinna, you always glowing and shining, yo. Like, you got to tell me what the secret is. You gotta tell me what the secret is, because you always like you come on the show and I
tried, despite life's challenges and life be lifing.
Life be lifing. You ain't gotta tell me, Corinna. Life be lifing.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about. I know you probably got something to say about. Now, before we talk about the civics piece, because I think this is the conversation I've been waiting to have with you for a minute. But what do you make of Representative Jasmine Crockett's demonstration there? Do you feel like it was out of line? Do you feel like it was too much? Do you feel like it was right on point? Where do you stand on that?
Oh, hell no. It was just enough. It was just right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love to see when she's, laying into them right there in that chamber. And she was on point. And, I think it clearly demonstrates. I love the fact that she had the pictures, right? Because it really is hypocrisy. And she pointed it out and she let them have it, right? There was, we don't have time for decorum right now. You got to hit them where it hurts. It's like, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back harder. And that's how we have to play this game. And I'm glad she showed the evidence, because it's like you have no evidence with what's going on with Hunter Biden and the president. But let's talk about y'all's president, right? The tangerine tyrant. Okay. Had all those boxes in his bathroom. And I love that she said shitter. I was like, yes, sis. I had to listen twice. I'm like, did she say what I think she said?
Oh, yeah, she said it.
So I really appreciate that. Shout out to Representative Jasmine Crockett. I know I've been following her since she was in the Texas State House. And we need some reps like her in some of these other states. You know what I'm saying? And I think, a lot of times we talk about, we don't hear the Democrats fighting back, but she is an exemplar of someone who's on that side who is. It's just that we need to multiply that number. And this should be common, right, to see that. But it was necessary, and I loved it. And I'm glad that she stood up for what was right. And, she let them have it. She told them, like, look, here's what it is, bottom line, and what you could say. What can you say to that? You know what I mean? Your president is, he got, what, 4 indictments? Like, I'm starting to lose count. So.
Oh, yeah, he got 4 right now. He got 4 indictments, 91. Now, I've never heard a man who has, and y'all crew, y'all tell me this, because anybody from the street has ever heard this happening. 4 indictments, 91 counts, and you still walking around the streets like,
the earth, free, no handcuffs.
He just got, look, we talked about it, Corinne, just the other day. We know that Letitia James, she just won her case where he was found guilty of fraud and pretty much being deceptive to banks and investors. That was a civil case, so that's not a criminal case. So he won't be doing time, but he has to dissolve some of his businesses. But it's the fact that, like, bro, you still raising money, you still spending money, people are still believing in your idea and your vision, and you are a whole criminal, like for real, like a whole governmental criminal.
I think it demonstrates, the toxicity of white caucasity, white privilege, white supremacy, all these things, right? That we coin it as, that he can still walk around free. I'm looking for the orange jumpsuit. Hopefully.
You think that's going to come? You think that's going to come before the election?
I don't know. And I don't think it'll come before the election.
No.
I don't
Corinna, you know what I think will happen? If it ever came down to something like that, it'd be crazy. He'd be like literally in jail, and he would still have a major lead over the GOP candidates.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that he could just file the paperwork. Let's start there. That he could file the paperwork to even get on the ballot. I'm tired of seeing Professor Lawrence Tribe come on MSNBC, trying to deep dive in analysis, breaking down the Constitution. Like, how much more broken down does it need to be? And I feel like that just speaks to the much bigger issue at hand, and that we really don't have democracy in this country, which I want to just circle back quickly to, President Biden wanting to let that be the focus of his campaign. And I spoke about this a little bit on the show a couple of weeks ago. We have to make sure we're clearly defining what democracy means, because we say that and we put that out there. But what does that mean for you, Farajii? What does that mean for me? What does that mean for us?
That's a great question. That is an excellent question.
How are we defining that, and why is it so important? Because we know a lot of people are checked out and disconnected. So we have to connect to the thing that people cares about, and then tie that in, right, to help them understand. Okay, so this is why democracy matters. This is how that plays into what's happening in your everyday life and the things that you care about and the things that we're trying to do to prevent all this, harm to us. But we have to make sure that it's clearly defined, because we're saying it so much, it kind of becomes a little bit numb, right? Or like
it does.
You start to tune out. So, they have to talk about it, but they have to make sure people understand what that means for us as a country, a nation, whatever you want to call us, and for us as a people, and for us in our individual lives. That's so important.
No, I think that's an excellent point. We got to take another pause, but I think that's an excellent point in analysis that you just made, because if we don't even get back to the basics, right? And I think that there's this assumption from a lot of people, Black, white, Republican, Democrats, I think there's this natural assumption that we're all talking about the same thing. When in reality, it's very, very clear that we're not. That Donald Trump's view, as he said that he doesn't, now the man is running for president. He said that he doesn't believe that America is really a democracy, that this is not a good democracy.
Oh, he wants to be king. We saw that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it's just a simple fact that as a candidate of a person who's running for the highest seat in the land, that you can be so critical as if you weren't a part of the breakdown. That's the part. Like, bro, you do know that you contributed to the breakdown. Now, does it all fall on Trump? Hell no. You're talking about hundreds of years of this, right? What Trump has done has exacerbated this whole situation to the point where it feels faster. It feels much more dramatic. But to your point, we gotta be clear. Now, do we do that in a big, like, professorial type of way? No, but I think that you gotta have different conversations. I gotta take this pause. And these are the conversations that need to be happening in colleges, in middle schools and high schools, in those school centers. You gotta have a conversation. Like where do we go? And I'm glad you brought this up, Corinne. I'm so happy about that, because where do we go to get a better understanding, or at least a common understanding of what democracy is? Folks, that's the basis of the conversation. This is why I love having Corinne on Fridays, man. Drop into it. Folks, stay with us. We still got a lot more to cover as we talk about civics in school, the schools, and particularly colleges, the key to saving democracy. And what is it? What are we trying to say? What are we trying to hold on to? Stay with us. The conversation continues. Make sure you join us on the Roland Martin's YouTube page and be a part of the Culture Crew, and join us in the discussion. We'll be right back here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Checking in with my sister, Corinna and Denise, as we talk a little bit about civics in schools. Are colleges, are schools the keys to saving democracy? The big question, and certainly we're going to continue the conversation around it, but I want to bring my sister back into the frame, Corinna, because Corinna, you made an excellent point before the pause. You asked a question like, our view of democracy is different for each person, right? And I think you're absolutely correct. This is what democracy is like. It's such a big idea that it has so many different versions that people kind of hold on to, right? Yeah. And even though the Constitution gives us a framework of what democracy could look like, it doesn't fill in all the gaps. It doesn't connect all the dots, right? For us to really say, okay, this is what it is. This is what it is. And so when I do hear and even on this show, making sure that we're not overusing a term as if, or assuming that everybody is on the same page and understanding that term.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we just assume that everyone knows what that is, and we need to clearly defining it. Absolutely, absolutely. The thing is, and I'm gonna go back to Representative Crockett for a minute. Mm-hmm. And I kind of made this point, like, does her demonstration, this recent demonstration, there have been other situations, whether you're talking about a Black woman like a Fonnie Willis down in Georgia, you're talking about like a Letitia James, the Black women who are moving forward and holding Trump accountable specifically, but in that process are also upholding the democratic institutions, the democratic ideals and structure. Is this demonstration the demonstration that we should fall in line with, right? Does this latest demonstration by Representative Crockett put Black women, another target on the back of a Black woman who is like speaking out and saying, you know what, enough is enough? I mean, it puts you. I hope you understand what I'm asking here. Because I just feel like it's crazy, and I'm using this term because of the historical precedents, that the people that were former slaves has to remind people who have been in power about their own system of government. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Like how is it that we are the greatest patriots? And we are the ones that have been abused by the system. But we're the greatest patriots. We're the ones that have the strongest belief into the system. Like I don't think anybody, and I'm not saying this to isolate anybody or to make it feel like somebody else we're better and no, I'm saying, think about this. We are the ones that are always on the front line. Whether it's in the physical front line in terms of protesting, whether it's in wartime, right? Whether it's in policy. How are we reminding the people that made the system about the system, reminding them about what the system should do?
I think it's almost innate to just who we are and who we've always been as a people, Farajii. It's just making me think, you saying that just now, the time that I spent in Egypt, this summer for 2 weeks. And I'm just thinking of all the magnificent things I saw, how meticulous the ancient Egyptians were, who we know are our people, no question, right? And I think, yeah, we've just always had that investment. I think too, a lot of us who are familiar with our history, particularly here in this place, we know the blood, sweat, and tears, and the hard work. And I think we're just always been, and I don't want it to sound cliche, but we are resilient. And, we know what we have earned. We know what we deserve. And we know what we have invested here. And ultimately, you know, even though we disagree on the tactics, a lot of the time we have the common goal of like true liberation, right? But yeah, you know, we always are the ones. It just seems as if, why are we always the ones on the front line? But I kind of look at it as it's just innate. It's just in us as a people, especially, you know, hey, if we want to really get historical per se, and you know, we're the first humans here on the earth, on the planet, you know, one of the oldest civilizations, like I was speaking to in ancient Egypt. So I think a lot of those things just tie into our DNA, how we move, why we're motivated to keep going, and we're so passionate about us as a people. And you know, I think we have to also remember too, it's not necessarily because we believe in any damn system. We believe in us.
Right.
And that is what's most important. And unfortunately, we have to live within a system. So we can either sit back and let the system swallow us whole, or we can study the system, understand it so we can change it.
I agree. I agree. Monkey Confessions, you said, what does democracy mean to the formerly enslaved, a group locked out of it? And I think that's the big question. That's the big question moving forward. And I'm talking about having those conversations about voting and other ways that you can get involved. That should be the central question. Like, what does that mean to us as Black America, right? Like what are we talking about here? Sharon Brooks, my sister, you said Representative Jasmine Crockett, along with other Dems, are changing the trajectory of their time in Congress. They all must work, do the work, read the room, teach, pass bills that help their constituents. Absolutely.
I absolutely agree. And we have to remember too, Representative Jasmine Crockett was one of the, I think maybe it was about 30 of them, I can't remember the count, Texas Democrats a couple summers ago who went to DC. Do y'all remember that?
I do remember that.
Trying to hold up that session where they were trying to hold it down. And you know, I'm still salty at our president for not taking the time to meet with them. But you know, I think we really need to, sometimes we have a short-term memory. So I think we have to go back and remember, you know, where is Rep. Jasmine, for example, coming from, right? Her track record as far as, you know, all the work that she has done as an elected official, not just here in the Congress. It kind of just ties into why she's so passionate about these issues, right? And I think it's important to remember who they are, especially again when it's time to vote, who we're gonna, you know, push on these policies, who can actually get things done for us. And you know, aside from just, you know, seeing her in her magical element per se, you know, we have to follow up the paper trail. You know, what's actually happening? What bills are they bringing to the table? What are they actually fighting for? You know, and I think sometimes too, Farajii, it'll look different for all of our legislators. Like everyone's not going to be like Rep. Crockett to just hold up the evidence and stuff, or maybe to just be that, you know, feisty with it. You know, it might come in another presentation, but as long as it's still strong and firm, I think that definitely counts, especially with folks are doing behind the scenes. But we are also in a moment where we need to see more of what we just saw from Representative Jasmine Crockett. It is absolutely necessary.
I totally agree. And I thought, you know, what I this is just a little aside, Corinna. I just hate, we need to stop acting as if these people aren't people. Like people have this preconceived notion that because you're in public office, that you're supposed to have this high level of decorum and that you can't be upset. I remember when President Obama had that whole situation with Henry Louis Gates and how he was arrested in front of his own house. He had to restrain his anger and his frustration. You know what I'm saying? With this whole thing that a white police officer arrested Dr. Gates, this scholar, this world-renowned scholar and researcher, this author, books and stuff, this historian in front of his house. And he had to feel extreme because people was like, well, he's the president of the United States. He shouldn't be. Like, man, I wish our national rep, I mean, I want somebody to wild out on some people. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I feel. Like, if you just be like, man, fuck this, man. Like, we, you know, like, part of me.
Sometimes you need to hear that F-bomb.
I just need to wild out, man. Just wild out on people. Just because, look, you're talking about people's lives. You're talking about systems. You're talking about the livelihood of all of us. And you want people to come. Mitch McConnell, when he comes up, he sounds like he's just like, I mean, he's saying the most craziest things, but he's standing there and he's trying to sound like he's the most respectful person. But out of his mouth comes the most.
His voice is also very.
His craziest, and I'm talking about the contents. I'm not talking about the sound of his voice. I'm talking about the contents of his whatever he has to say. Yeah. Just doesn't align with the physical nature, stature of who he is, and it's crazy. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we expect our political leaders to not get upset, to not feel. To not tell the truth, you know, it's just like, come on, bro. Like, and people, and look, and this is what I think will happen, Corinna. They will look at our sister, Jasmine Crockett, and be like, well, why does she sound like that? Well, first thing, she's from Texas. Why did she move her head and she lift up the paper like this? See, you're looking at all of the other stuff, except for listening to what the sister had to say. Now, she stood up there and was like, well, we have President Trump. He has 91 counts. Can we please pull up the PowerPoint of his stuff in the shitter?
Yeah, you can't lose the audience, but I think she was her authentic self. And I think that's what makes me appreciate her even more, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's what look, when they run for office, we want them to be their authentic selves. Right. That's why we put certain people in office. So why can't they be their authentic selves? It's like we kind of do this decorum. Let's be real. Decorum goes out the window when you are trying to stop people from voting, when you won't pass bills to save people's lives when they come in contact with the police. Decorum goes out the window when you're talking about all of the challenges that Black mothers have to go through in giving life and saving their own life in the process.
We don't have no time for decorum.
We ain't got time for no damn decorum, man.
J6, real quick, and I know we got to go to break. You finished watch. I remember staying up late to finish watching them complete the vote, right? To secure President Biden's presidency. And 2-3 in the morning, best believe they almost came to blows in that chamber. And I'm talking specifically about some of the white representatives, okay? And it just makes me think, I'm pretty sure, you know, back in the day, you know, when it was just a whole bunch of white men, they throw blows in that chamber. The way they were talking to each other, you know, but you don't ever hear that take back. Oh my gosh, and he didn't have to behave that way, right? We always see that it's laser focused on certain folks who typically look like you and I. But I say all that to say it's not as uncommon as we think. And at the end of the day, they are human beings, and I think it's effective. People, you know, I hate to say it, but like the GOP, they play off of emotions all the time. They do it manipulatively. But yeah, emotions matter. And we're just at a point right now that decorum is out the damn door. We're about getting the business done. And if that's how it needed to come out, shoot straight, no chaser, for people to fully comprehend the matters that are happening, then so be it. I'm all for it.
I'm all for it as well. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation. Let's go further into this idea of civics. I want to get Corinna's take on this and share with you what one New York Times columnist had to say. She's a professor and says that maybe the discourse, the political discourse in this country would change as we simply taught young people how the system works and give them the framework on how to have political conversations. I want to get your take as well, crew, on this and so much more. Stay with us in the final few moments of we're going to be having those discussions right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told. Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to The Culture on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Checking in with my sister, Corinna Denise, college advisor, advocate, and culture crew member as we talk a little bit about where we are, this ongoing conversation about Representative Jasmine Crockett, and more importantly, getting us to a place to have these discussions, political discourses, in a more intelligent way. And this is what we're finding right now, Corinna, that in the midst of all of this stuff that is happening, we're not on the same page. You made the point that our view of democracy is different from person to person. I agree. So there's got to be some common understanding of what that is, right? When we're talking about the roles of what the branches of government, this is stuff that we should have learned early on in years in school, but it may have to be brought back to the forefront as we get older because stuff happens in our heads, and so we lose sight. Because you do have individuals like a Donald Trump who, when he gets caught up in something, he said, "Well, I'm the president. I can do that." Mm-hmm. When in fact, that's not true.
Right.
There are checks and balances. I made the point the other day when the GOP debate was happening on Wednesday. You got to be much more knowledgeable about what's going on and like the topics they're talking about, because it's easy to get caught up in somebody's soundbite. But then if you don't fact check, then you might actually be believing some lies.
Oh, yeah.
And because of the context in which the candidate may say some particular information, you're like, oh, so-and-so did this or so-and-so said that. And then you fact check and you're like, that's not true.
I think an example to what you're speaking to, Farajii, particularly the Fox News audience, I would say a good majority of them, if not all of them, are very weak and easily influenced. And they just hang on to every word, without even raising questions to be like, well, what are you talking about? Okay, let me go fact check that, right? They just take it like it's the gospel. instead of, verifying and finding out. And, even doing something as simple as going on like congress.gov, where all the bills are, all the legislation is there. You can see.
I hear you. I hear you.
But
I hear you.
You don't know about it.
No, but see, but check this out. Check this out. See, you are a political news junkie. You're a systems thinker. I said that the other day. You're a systems thinker. You think about this stuff. This is, you love, first thing, you actually love learning about this stuff. So political science, understanding this stuff is actually something that you enjoy doing. To somebody who has no interest, do we get upset with them that they have no interest in this? Because government is can be very, very boring. I mean,
I don't think
that's
we get
why
upset with them. They
we
just
can't
have
get
to
upset with them.
understand why it affects them. I mean, they don't have to be.
That's a different approach, though.
But you have to be aware. You have to be conscientious as to how this is going to impact your life. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree. But see, there's no mandate. And here's what I'm saying. There's no mandate in the Constitution or any other government document, no other founding document where that is a prerequisite of citizenship. If you are born in America, you're not given a civics test. We learn civics in school, right?
Yeah.
But look at how school has changed over the past 30 to 40 years. That slowly has dissipated from the curriculum. But you're not given a civics test because why? Because it was assumed that we.
Farajii, and I just wanted to share this with our audience quickly. When you talk about, we don't get a civics test. So I actually worked in a school where the students, as part of their graduation requirement, they actually had to sit for the exam that someone would take who's coming into this country to become a naturalized citizen. And I remember some of us, just the staff, just wanted to take the exam just to see. And in all transparency, we didn't know a lot of the information on there.
That's what I'm saying.
But someone who wants to come and be a naturalized citizen, they actually have to study these things and successfully pass. So I thought that was very profound, Farajii, that we're natural-born citizens, but we don't even know. And then just to circle back to a point you made, it's not a prerequisite in the Constitution, but given the history here, right? Why would it be? So I think we have to raise those points too. Why hasn't it been taught? Well,
because if you think about it, and I know some conspiracy theorists are gonna love this, but I think that to some degree, having an ignorant electorate, an ignorant citizens plays well for the behind the scene politics of America.
Oh, yes.
You see what I'm saying? So if you're too smart, if you understand the system too much, then and you can see the loopholes, right? Like if you can start to point out the loopholes, then you start to become a problem. Because now you can't just pull the wool over our eyes. The thing is, we're not. It's just not. It's not a big thing. Here's why this conversation is so important. There is a college professor. She wrote a piece for the New York Times. She said, by abandoning civics, colleges help create the culture wars. This is her piece for the New York Times. And in this piece, this was penned by, let me see who wrote this. This was I think it was either a group or an individual. By Deborah Satz and Dan Edelstein. Professor Satz is the Dean of Stanford School of Humanities and Sciences, where Professor Edelstein is the faculty director of the Civic, Liberal, and Global Education Program. It's a fantastic, very fascinating read on the New York Times website. But one of the key points is that the culture war that we're seeing, the civics, the lack of intelligent political discourse that we're seeing in this country can be remedied if those things were taught on a college level. Now, we can even go as far back and say in a high school level. Like, there were certain things in our parents' generation that they were exposed to in schools that we're not exposed to now, right? Certain things. So if you look at debate was a part of the civics or American government classes, right? Like going up and you had to debate. Now that's considered, quote unquote, in some cases, an extracurricular activity. We already know the discussion about removing certain elements of history from the curriculum. Yeah. So we're seeing that now, whereas back in the day, those things were already included. So if you look at the high school student of our parents' generation, or maybe the generation before them, they were a lot further along in terms of understanding. That's how they did get involved. That's why they do vote. That's why their level of political engagement, I think, is a little bit deeper because certain things were taught in school. Let me share this and then we're going to take our next pause. This is coming from this piece, folks, when they made the point that we are at a point in our curriculum, especially on the college level, where students can choose what they want to take. It's not mandatory for them to take civics. It's not mandatory for them to learn about their government. It's not mandatory to learn how various systems in their government works. Yeah. So what Professor Sachs said is, quote, let me put quote one up. She said, freedom of choice is an important virtue and value, but without common foundation, it can lead to people shouting one another down. She said, an educational model that leaves no room for a core curriculum shaped by the demands of 21st century democracies leaves students woefully ill-equipped for dealing with disagreements. In a world where individual choice is supreme, how do we learn to accept that there are alternative perspectives to our own that may also be valid? If my goals are the only ones that matter, those who do not share them can too easily be viewed as obstacles that need to be swept away. In the educational context, the invisible hand can turn into an iron fist. Civic education, by contrast, is a public good. Left to the market, it will always be undersupplied. It is rarely a priority for employers or for job seekers to promote the skills of active listening, mutual reasoning, respecting differences, and open-mindedness. We need to reinvest in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. But to the question we're raising, are colleges the key to saving democracy? I don't know.
If we include the civics, if we included civics into if we made that a mandatory part of the curriculum.
Yeah, I think it definitely needs to be a mandatory part. I think it needs to be in every classroom. You know, I can recall, learning about government to an extent, even in elementary school. You need to revisit it in middle school. I remember taking a course that was actually entitled Civics in 7th grade, and I never saw it again. And then usually most high school students, you have American history, usually your junior year, and then senior year, you're taking American government and economics, but unfortunately, they're each just like half a year, right? A single semester. So how prepared or knowledgeable are you coming out of high school, going into college, or any other post-secondary path, right? You're not, and it's not being taught. And I don't really necessarily think colleges, if they incorporate this curriculum, which I do absolutely agree they should, are the key per se to saving democracy, but they definitely play an important role. I think the curriculum needs to be accessible to everyone. What about the old-fashioned way when we were doing things in our local community organizations, or church after Sunday, or you're getting your people together and reviewing and going over these things to learn. So I think civics, government, economics, it needs to be taught in a classroom. And what that classroom space looks like, it could either be a college classroom, a high school classroom, a middle school classroom, an after school program, extracurricular activity, whatever the case may be. And I think that's the key to actually saving ourselves, because we need to understand how this system works. I think a lot of us talk and we're so disengaged, not only because, yes, there's a lot of things we want that we're just getting pushed back, and it's hard and it's a struggle, most definitely, but also there are many things that we don't actually understand. Sadly, I think that the president is responsible for everything, and what the very thing we're complaining about, well, your mayor is responsible for that, sweetheart, but we don't know.
Hey, look, and we're going to take a quick pause. In President Biden's speech, he made this point, and this is something else that I do want to talk about. he made this point about President Trump. This was yesterday, where he made to say that here you have a man talking specifically about Trump who wants to consolidate power under the executive branch. And when he said that, it made me think back to some of the things I've been recently reading about how there is a plan that if Trump is elected president, that he wants to bring, for example, these government agencies like the Department of Justice and other agencies that are considered to be independent outside of the executive branch. He wants to bring them under the control of the executive branch, right? So that way he can determine which investigations they're going to use their money and resources on which investigations they're not. So, but if a person doesn't know civics, if a person is not informed of how the branches are set up, then they would assume that that's a good idea.
Right.
And that there's no checks and balances, right? Because that's essentially, and I'm not saying this is the greatest system that we live in. We can definitely make some improvements, but I'm just saying, I think the founders were saying you can't, quote unquote, centralize all this power like a king or monarchy in one person, one place, because there's not going to be those checks and balances. There's not going to be no accountability to whoever is in the chair. So, but if you don't know that, if the average person who doesn't know that and they don't understand, like that is actually not a good thing, because as much as you might like the current person in the seat, suppose you get somebody like who you don't like, who you don't agree with, and they having that much power.
Right. And one quick thing, because I know we got to go to break, to the professor's point, you know, we're not developing that open-mindedness to raise these questions, right? Like, so just to hear Trump saying that he wants to do all these things, you know, bring everything under the executive branch, right? So he could ultimately have control, to someone, you know, to your point, who doesn't necessarily know or familiar with, they're going to presume that that's a good thing rather than raise questions. Wait, now hold up now. You want to do what?
Exactly.
Let's review these checks and balances.
Exactly.
That's the mindset we got to get to. We got to start raising questions and thinking.
And civics gives us a chance to do that. I'm going to be honest with you. If you are always taught to remember, but never taught to question, then you're going to be used as a tool and a fool for somebody else's agenda.
Yeah.
We have to, in this country, unfortunately, those who value critical thinking are ostracized. When we question why things are the way they are, and I know we got members like that. We got crew members now. Y'all probably ostracized when y'all back in the day. Your parents probably, why are you asking all these questions? Why are you questioning this? And then, you know, if somebody were to say, oh, well, why does God do that? You should never question God.
We need to go back to our 3-year-old selves and be right. But why?
Curiosity. We have, and look, that has been killed in the American people for so long, especially for Black folks. We have always taught not to question things. We take it, but we don't want to question things. Look, I got to take a quick pause when we come back. More conversation with my sister Corinna, Denise, and you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told. Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA, and this It's the culture. The culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's the culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking and asking the question, are colleges the key to saving democracy? If these colleges were taking some form of civics class a mandatory requirement as students are leaving higher learning institutions, and we are still finding ourselves in a space where a lot of students just don't know who, the systems that they are part of, they just don't know how their government works, and so much more. Let me check back in with my sister Corinna Denise as we talking about this. And I think it goes back to the culture of where we don't question, where we don't ask enough questions. And I mean, look, as part of the culture crew, y'all always ask a question. Nobody tunes into the show and then just like, I don't know what's going on. Like you already come to the space, right? Like, what's the president? But you're already coming to the space with a higher level of consciousness. Like you obviously want to be informed and all of those things, right? But that's not everybody. Yeah. And look, I understand that. I understand just for in my little space that I have some influence and power in, like even with this show, that you're not going to get everybody because that's not the culture. Like when you go on and look, just do a simple check. See what's on black news sites.
Celebrity culture, celebrity gossip.
As the top stories. I do it all the time, folks. I get mad at myself for doing it. See what's on the black news sites for top stories versus your other news sites. Different. And we have to encourage people to think. You see what I'm saying? Because, I mean, it's all well and good that we love to be entertained, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a time and place for everything. Now, when we're talking about civics, I had to look this up during the break because I was like, I want to make sure that I'm saying this in line because you got me thinking now, Corinna, I got to make sure I define every damn thing.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's hear it. Let's go. All
right. So according to, this is the University of New Hampshire, the Carson School of Public Policy. The question is asked, what is civic education and why is it important? They said, in the United States, civic education is often focused on knowledge of government. Students are taught the many structures of government and the procedures within those structures. Their understanding of civics is evaluated based on whether they can name the 3 branches of government, their representatives in Congress, and their state government. By these measures, the current state of civic education is lacking. If you can't name the 3 branches of government, your representative in Congress, and your state governor. look at how basic the situation is, right? This is not like high-strung politics.
Mm-hmm.
They're finding that this is a problem for American students. They said this is from 2022 that I'm reading from the University of New Hampshire. Only 56% of Americans can name all three branches of government.
Wow.
According to the 2021 Annenberg Civics Knowledge Survey, and that's up from a mere 26% in 2016. A 2018 Johns Hopkins survey found that a third of Americans could not name their governor and that 80% could not name their state legislature, among other information about state government.
You know what? I would hope that we're in a time right now where you do know who your governor is. We all know who my governor is, the treacherous Ron DeSatan. I mean, all the
look.
How do you not know his name? You know?
Look, as much as that man's name is in the news,
yes,
I bet you can talk to some Floridian and ask them, well, who's the governor of the state? They'd be like, yo, isn't it Jeb Bush?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And look, and it's not even the crazy part, Corinna. We can't even laugh at this because it's really a sad state of affairs.
It is sad.
When you're talking about only 56% of Americans can name all three branches of government, what is the 44% of Americans? What are they thinking about?
I know. And you know what? Just for context, as we're talking about it, let's go on ahead and name the three branches of government. Okay, so we have the executive branch. That's where the president is, right? Then we have the judicial. That is our court system, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, federal courts, circuit courts, all of those things, court, our judges. And then we have the legislative branch, which in my view flies under the radar a lot of the time. Our legislative branch contains the Congress, also known as our House of Representatives, right, on the federal level. And then the second chamber adjacent to that would be the Senate. Those are our legislators who have to pass legislation to get to the president's desk for him to sign into law. And, you know, it's these simple things. A lot of times, you know, I think too, Farajii, I think a lot of us are even more familiar with our legislators or, you know, just elected officials who are on the federal level, as opposed to your local city, your local municipality, and you don't even know who your commissioner is, your mayor.
Oh, no,
or even what your commissioner does. What are those responsibilities, right? And there are things that are actually affecting you, and you don't even know that this is the person you need to be talking to.
Corinna, you going too far, my sister. You going too far. You went too far.
All right, let me back it up.
Let's back it up. Let's start with the president of the United States. Who is that? It's not Trump right now, folks. It's still Joe Biden. And I mean, look, again, this is, and I'm glad that you brought this up because it's like, at the end of the day, man, this is, and it didn't, of course, I didn't say Black Americans, Black or white people or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a very serious situation. That as 2016, y'all, this is like 7 years ago. 7 years ago that we are seeing, look at this. 26% of people knew what the three branches of government were 7 years ago. 26%. Back in 2016, that was the number of Americans that can name all three branches of government. In 2016, y'all. And you wonder why when we have conversations about voting, when we have conversations about policy, when we have conversations about changing the system, this stuff just, I mean, literally, and I'm not saying these people are slow or dumb or nothing. I'm not going to throw them. I'm just saying the brain is not equipped for this new information. Right. Now it's gone up. It's gone up, right? But I bet you in 2016, so that means that in 2008, 2012, did they know that a Black man was in office who made history?
Oh, wow.
I'm sure they probably did because it was a huge moment for the country. But did they know who the president was after that in 2016?
But to your point, I think it's a matter of we have to be familiar to be familiar, not because it's just a huge moment. Now, I would say too, in the past 3 years with the pandemic and all these, laws just come, everything just back to back to back to back to back, and you kind of see this coordinated activity, right? In every state, kind of aligning with the same racist, fascist, egregious laws. And we are actually feeling a direct impact in several ways, right? So I think that is really now pushing us to become more curious, to be like, what the hell is going on? And what does this mean for my life? And I think this speaks to even bigger issue that this needs to be the norm, right? And again, we have life, we got things happening. You don't have to be in this every single day. You have folks who actually study these things. You got to find your trusted people who can condense this information clearly and concisely to keep you abreast of what's happening, right? Because, if we're all doing a little bit of the work, then the weight of it all is not going to be so heavy, where we can kind of lean on each other and get the information that we need to get to push forward. But we got to become more aware, and that's really sad. I'm kind of floored. Like 26%. I didn't expect the number to be high, but man, that's low. That's not even like a little bit.
That's like a quarter of Americans. That's like a quarter of Americans. This was again 2016. This was the case. It went up in 2021. But look what happened what shot it up? Just imagine if 2016 it was at 26% of people knew what. Only 26% of people knew what the three branches of government were. But by the time 2021 comes around, 56% of people knew what the three branches of government. Well, what happened within that 5-year period? Well, you had a person like Trump, right? You had a catalyst to wake people up. And that's why sometimes, folks, when you have certain forces that comes into like social and political forces, it's not always a bad thing, because it can help to bring people into some level of consciousness. It's the same way as the George Floyd murders did for white America. To see that level of evilness and brutality, it wakes people up. And sometimes, that's why when I kind of push back on some of when people say, well, we don't need this, we don't need that. Like sometimes you do need to rock the boat. Sometimes you need an awakening, right? Sometimes you need to just shift this out of our comfort.
We capsized the boat with January 6th. It could have been worse. More blood.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse, right? It really could have been worse. So now the thing is, if the powers that be that want to keep us ignorant and dumb and want to keep our asses shaking and our fingers popping, right, all the time. And I'm saying for Black America, if we want to talk about some other stuff, and we want to talk about who's wearing what to some show.
Right.
And trust me, I'm not that guy to hate on entertainment. But at the end of the day, does it take precedence over what's really going on? Like we don't have the time nor the liberty.
There's no balance, right? Because in all transparency, sometimes I need to de-escalate and unwind, and I put on the ratchet too, and I'm like, oh, Love and Hip Hop is on.
We all do it. Look. I listen to you. I get it. But you need those. But see, that's the thing, though. That's the thing. Like you got to get this constant. It's like the little machine that you use to apply. What do they call that? The resuscitator. Boom. Every so many years. Boom. Something got to get. Like that's how Black America is. We need to be brought back to life. Boom. Boom, and then we fall asleep.
Farajii, I think a Trump, I hate to even say president in the same sentence, but a Trump presidency, right? It magnified the issues and the breakdown that had already been happening for years in plain sight, And for those who aren't as, I guess, politically astute, as involved, as knowledgeable, who don't have that heightened sense of awareness, all the foolishness, all the BS has been there all along, hiding, but yet it's in plain sight. We see it now. So to your point, Trump was just like the catalyst, right? Just the tool, especially over this past 7 years since he first went into office in 2016, that magnified a deeper issue that has already been happening. But for whatever reasons, we've become complacent, and maybe some of the progress that we've made, or, made a mistake a time or two, or dropped the ball, or we let our foot off the gas, for a plethora of reasons. And now we're here. And, and we all have to live with the damage, unfortunately. And it's just a matter of, we got to ring it in before it's too late. And I really hope that we have come to a point where we are, encouraging people to learn more about this and tying it in specifically because it actually affects them, and speaking to, just real quickly, it makes this comes to mind, oftentimes we do talk about the importance of voting, but I don't know if we break that down enough for folks to understand how the voting impacts them personally. It's not a personality contest. You're not voting for someone because you like them necessarily. If you happen to like them, great, that's a bonus, but that shouldn't be the initial motivating factor. Harm reduction should be an initial motivating factor. That's probably priority number one right now. It's just the reality because of the country that we are living in. And then pretty much the things that we need and that we deserve, I would say, come second to that.
Absolutely.
But, we have to, I just really hope it pushes people to want to learn and get involved more. And we have to connect it to let people understand this is important because it affects you. We can't always go to, which is important. And yes, I appreciate it. Our ancestors fought and died for it. But then back to the earlier point, are we raising the question? Why would they make such a sacrifice for the vote? Are we raising that point to connect it? But we're just saying that, well, they marched and they died for it. But we're not explaining why. Why would they have made such a sacrifice? Why was it so sacred to them? And there was a reason for that, right? Because ultimately they wanted to be free and they understood how this system works and that they needed to be involved in a part of it for it to not only benefit them, but for them to get the things that they deserve after all these years of toil, sweat, blood, labor. And we have to recognize that in ourselves too, rather than just like, oh, it's just a system. Look, the damn system ain't going nowhere. And we have to be realistic that we gotta either collectively work to abolish it, change it, build it back up new again, or we could wallow and drown and bitch and complain. And then next thing you know, we're being taken out.
And look, and I agree with you 1000%. It all starts with us even having the knowledge.
Yeah.
First, having the desire to want to be in a different space, but then having the knowledge to understand the space that you're currently in. It's like anything else in life, right? Like if you have a problem, you have to first admit that you have a problem.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Admit we don't know and we want to learn.
We got to admit that we don't know. And I'm not saying that I know all of it because I'm still learning. You're still learning. Yeah. We're learning together, right? But at the end of the day, it's about, look, man, I just don't know. The American voter just don't know.
Yeah. And we also can't point the finger. We got to be amicable so the person could be like, well,
that comes along with the civics. That comes along with having political discourse. And that's what this professor from the New York Times has mentioned. It's like, we're not even having conversations. Like yesterday we had a big conversation about, racial justice and advancing racial justice. It's like, are we even in a mindset to have a space to talk through things? You see what I'm saying? Outside of our own personal silos, or can we even talk about it? You know what I'm saying? Can you sit down, and I'm not saying in an unemotional way, but in a very humanistic way, have conversations about like, man, damn, let's talk about race. Let's talk about politics, right? And because we got the unofficial cultural narrative is, if you want to make a friend, don't talk about race, politics, and money. But guess what? Those are the three things that bring people together.
Very true.
Race, politics, money. So we have always been conditioned to build relationships with people on a very superficial level. Like if I'm friends with a white person and I can't talk about race, and I mean, not in a very hateful way. I'm talking about, and they can't talk about race. How can that friendship become a deep connection? If I'm like, I can't stay.
But you always got to walk on eggshells, right? You can't
walk on eggshells.
Your authentic self, right?
I can't be my authentic self if I can't even have, like, I'm black. I know you're white. Well, why we can't talk about those experiences, because what will happen is once we do talk about those experiences, we might come to some common ground on how we're living our life. We might come into some better understanding.
Right.
We don't, and so with this culturally, we got to change a lot. Look, I know our time has been very well spent.
And you're right. We don't talk to each other. We gotta talk to each other.
We gotta talk to each other. It's okay to talk about these things, right? And if we don't agree, we don't agree. And that's one of the things, very quickly, that's one of the things that this New York Times columnist was making a point of. She said, just because you teach civics, let me just pull up this thing very quickly. Lisa, let's go to the second one. Let's go to the second quote. I want to throw this out there because she said, to be clear, our civic education does not aim at achieving consensus among students, nor at producing moderation. Our students, like all of us, will continue to disagree on many things, nor are our students the only ones in need of such civic skills. Numerous members of Congress and governors could no doubt use this curriculum as well. We'd be happy to share it. But it is our belief that by restoring a common curriculum foundation centered on the democratic skills our students need to live in a diverse society, they will turn to more constructive ways to engage with those with whom they disagree than censorship or cancellation. That's easy. Oh, you cancel. That's easy. Censor them. That's easy. Talking to them, whoo, it's like climbing Mount Everest. It's like climbing Mount Everest. All right, Corinna, our time has been very, very well spent, sis. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a dope-ass Culture Crew member. Thank you for the work that you're doing on the college campuses and advising our students. And I know that you're advocating for them to get involved, so I ain't got to say that. That's unspoken, so I appreciate it.
It's always for young people, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guess what? Them young people won't save us from ourselves. Trust and believe.
Yeah, because when I get ready to retire, I need to make sure that they're running things right. I don't want,
Come on.
I want to take my rest. That's all.
Come on, there it is. My sister Corinna Denise, y'all make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms. Ren is in the building, y'all. And it's always a pleasure to have her. Thank you, Corinna, for being so good for the culture. Folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you, my online culture crew. I thank all of the new visitors, all of the new voices in the crew, in the chat. Thank you so much. Our time has been very well spent. Stick around. Up next, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Support us here at Black Star Network. Go to our website today. We are rolling on so many different platforms. And so we want to continue to power this digital movement that we are embarked upon. BlackStarNetwork.com. Follow us on social media, as well as download the app for free. Also follow me, yours truly, The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, for The Real Farajii on Threads. And I'm on all social media platforms, even on X. So make sure y'all follow me there as well. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will be back on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a fantastic weekend. Look forward to connecting with you on Monday. Talk soon. Peace.